Hey there, welcome to Voice Bootcamp, a global name in unified communication. Hi, my name is Faisal Khan, CEO and founder of Voice Bootcamp. In this particular self-study kit, I'm going to talk about the installation and configuration for Cisco Unified Customer Voice Portal, aka CVP. Now, before we do the actual installation, it is always good idea to prepare the Windows Server to ensure that you have the necessary applications that are required or configuration that are required are already there. First of all, you got to make sure that the ECS server or the hardware that you're installing is in meet the requirement for the installation. Disable any Cisco security agent that you may already have on the server. You can use either Tomcat. If you're not using Tomcat, then you can use an IBM or WebSphere application server. Now, SNMP or Simple Network Management Protocol must be configured, and WMI Windows installer should be also enabled as well. Now, if you do have multiple network card on your server, it is important that you disable one or remove one, because CVP does not work very well with the multiple network interface cards active. Now, unlock any CVP related files before doing the installation. Now, you can always take a look at Cisco's release note to ensure that you have the most up-to-date information that you need in order to match the software and hardware compatibility. Now, it's like I said, disabling security agent. Sometime you may have installed security agent, so you must disable it prior to installation. And to do that, you can go to your Windows services and disable the service that you may want to install it on. Again, you can always turn it on once the installation is completed. Now, if you're planning to install VXML server, then you must choose which application server you want to use. You can use Tomcat, which is included in the installation program, or you can use a third IBM WebSphere application server. Now, this particular study kit does not focus on WebSphere, so we will just continue to use Apache Tomcat. Now, SNMP should also be enabled. You gotta make sure that SNMP is enabled properly within your server. And if you have any virtual memory configuration requirement, make sure that you have a necessary amount of virtual memory, usually 1.5 times the actual RAM that you have on your PC. Now, like I said, if you have a multiple network card, disable them. Only one should be active. Otherwise, when you try to connect the operation console, you get an error message saying unable to restart the resources or services like that. Now, the requirement to install, once the CVP components are installed, then you can run reporting bat. If you're going to install the reporting server, you can add a call server using CVP operation console. Once it's added, and then start customizing the necessary subsystem in order to get started with your CVP solution. Now, once those things are configured, you can then install the license. Now, every time you install CVP, it comes with about, I believe, 60 days license, which is good enough to learn and practice pretty much most of the components. So to deploy CVP solutions, make sure Windows Server, whether it's 2008 or 2012, the NTP is configured properly. Install the necessary component, core component. You need at least one operation console. Like, remember, operation console cannot be in the same server if it's for production. For lab, you can run everything on the same server. If you are going to use a reporting server, make sure you run this batch file on the reporting server itself, followed by adding the call manager server, enabling the subsystem, add the reporting server, add the VXML server if needed, apply the license, and configure your users and device pools, and so on and so on. Now, to configure NTP, pretty much in normal NTP information, CVP component itself do not synchronize with NTP. Is the Windows Server will, and therefore when CVP logs the information, it will have the right and correct time. You can use Cisco router as an NTP server if you want to. So to configure NTP on the Windows 2003, 8 or 10 server, basically follow these steps. You can stop the NTP, say net stop W32 time. And then you type this command to add the NTP server information into the configuration file. This being your this IP address of your NTP server right there. Once it's added, you can then start the service and type the command w32tm/resync. This will resynchronize the time from the Windows server. Now keep one thing in mind: if your CVP server is already connected to Active Directory, it probably will have a proper timing coming from the Active Directory. CVP installation, once you're ready to install, you will go to your CD-ROM, go to Windows installer, run the setup.exe file. Now during the installation, it's going to ask you what is a server role. You can configure call server, which is core, operation console, which is also core. Now both of them must be on separate servers. They cannot be on the same virtual machine or physical server itself. Reporting server must be configured. Now you cannot install a reporting server on a domain controller. It has to be a Windows server. It can be part of domain member of the domain, but not a controller itself. You can run Tomcat or IBM WebSphere as a VXML server, and of course then you can install the video server if you need to. The media server, which is used for all your prompts, which has to be it has to be at least either IIS or Apache web server. Now if you select media server alone, you have to keep in mind the server itself may not have web server installed. ASR and TTS, those are your speech recognition. We're not going to talk about that for now. And then of course you have all-in-one CVP, which is basically selecting all the services on a single file, single box, but this is not supported in production. Once it is done, you will start configuring your CVP. So here's the installation process. You run the setup file, accept, select. Now you notice how you cannot select more than one item here. That is because you are doing this for production. If you want to achieve the same thing for lab, where you want to install everything together, then you're going to type this command, the setup program that you have. After you say lab only, this switch right there, lab only, will enable you to select all of the services into single box. So that is the switch right there. Okay. Then select the location where you want to install. This is your media file installation folder. That's where your web server is also pointing to. Your certificate information. This is for self-signed certificate. And then you're ready to install. And as the installation takes place, then you will log into your operation console to manage your system on a day-to-day basis. Now, on the operation console server, you will also run the setup.exe. You will select the operation console and install the console as it is. Now when you install the operation console, that's the server where you're going to define your password, not on the CVP call server. So you only get to select the password on operation console server. A single operation console, which is a web-based client, can manage multiple call server that you have. Now, in your a CVP server can be managed by only one call server at a time. All right, so I'm going to show you an installation. So this is my CVP server A. Sorry, that's not CVP. I'll go to A first. Now I have all my SNMP stuff probably ready, so I'm not going to bother with that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go to run, browse, select this PC, CD-ROM, CVP, installer Windows, and setup. And the reason why I do that is because I want to put that switch at the end, lab only. So while that is happening, let's go to the tool administration tools, go to services, and I want to verify if my SNMP is running. Okay, SNMP service is running, no problem. Windows installer, let's go and try that, keep that running. All right, so let's see what happened now. This guy asking me for license agreement, say yes. See, it gives me option to select all. Okay, so server that provides remote administration of a CVP solution. So I'll select all for now. It says CVP reporting server is not supported when the server is part of a domain. Okay, so I gotta actually make it remove it from the domain. So I will go ahead and remove this server from the domain. So that was my mistake. It cannot be even part of a domain. So I'm going to call this voice bootcamp domain. Okay, so while we reboot this server, let me go to the server B because I have two CVP. And I will also remove this from the domain and then reboot it as well. Okay, so it's done. Reboot. So this is A. Okay, so it is back. Let's log in. So I'll select this with the word lab only. And while this is coming up, I will go to B. Oh, B did not reboot it yet. Okay, let's go ahead and accept the license. Let's see what else is going to require. Okay, it's asking me to define my codec, so I'm going to use MuLaw. This is the location of my CVP folder. This is the media files location. And here I'm going to define my certificates. I'm going to call it Voice Bootcamp LLC, EUC Las Vegas, Nevada, country US, info@voicebootcamp.com. Okay, click next. Location where my database data and backup will be reside, the C drive. The database size you will be able to create depends on the amount of free space that you have. So I'm going to keep it a lab only for now. This is the standard size 250 G or 375 G for reporting, but I'm going to keep it a lab only, which is mean only 10 G. But do not use this option for production. Okay, so that's it for that, and let's go to side B. And just simply repeat the process. During the installation, there is no configuration that you need for backup or primary stuff like that. It's after you configure everything. Now both we're going to run Operation Console, but there's no point to that because I mean, obviously you want to manage both column a server with only one. So what we're going to do on this server, we're not going to enable Operation Console because we're going to manage both of these server from site A. Okay, so I gotta close this, forgot the switch. Yep, lab only. Next. Okay, so I'm going to select everything except Operation Console. I don't even need a remote man option anyway. So the call CVP server and reporting server. Okay, select the same codec, location keep it default, and then information that you need for your certificate. Okay, location of your drive, lab will be 10G, and that's it. So that's basically how you start UCCE installation, CVP installation, as easy as it is. So here we are going to define the password. Now password has to be quite complex, cannot be easy password. So I know what my password is going to be. Now you will not be required to enter that on the other server, I believe, because we did not select the Operation Console there. Okay, so you can go ahead and restart the computer, and we should be able to do the same thing on side B. Still going on. Okay, so once it's rebooted, I will go ahead and try to log in. I think I entered the wrong password. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is open the Operation Console, and we're going to add a call server. Okay, so right there where it says Operation Console, that's what you want to open. Now you gotta be careful. Sometime you may need compatibility turn on because of the way Internet Explorer works. Sometime because it's the latest version, it may not enable all the menus. So we have to enable compatibility from time to time. So let's see what happened now first. Okay, so before you log in, I always go to compatibility view and add this host in there, and then try to log in at this time as an administrator, and the password that you defined during the installation. If you did not do the compatibility, sometime what happens is this menu does not work. Okay, so here we go to device call server, and that's where you add the call server information. I won't do that at this stage right now. That will be the next lab. All right, so that's pretty much it for this particular chapter, and I will see you in the next.